Jay.
What's up?
Based off a reel I saw, the guy said there's two ways to make money: by doing what others won't, or what others can't. He said that's it. Do what others can't or what others won't.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, it goes back to the old saying, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes, and I think about it because in the long run, it is easier to do it. And people don't really understand that because after it's built and you've done your grinding, I mean, look at the people who, sit in houses, they've got this big fancy house, and you look at them, and they're not really nothing to look at. And what did they do?
Right.
They busted their fucking ass.
At one point in
You
their
know,
life, yeah, they built a little something. Yeah, I think that's what really kind of gets me lately is I got in a little. I like to get in Facebook arguments. What can I say? But it was just a meme something, and it was kind of whining about how like everything's unfair. And I was like, well, this is so silly. Like it's not though. Like just work a little harder. I don't know how else to say it, but he said basically he was like, well, that's easy for someone who's so lucky, and it's like, but like I'm not lucky. Like first of all, you don't know my story, and second of all, like if you did, you know how many times I got knocked down, and you'd also know that when you get knocked down, it's time to find the best way to get back up and take advantage of a bad situation. And a lot of times that can lead to completely new avenues. And it's just I just don't think people are open to opportunities as much as they should be. And if they are, then there's an apprehension or an excuse of like, well, just because this, it means, well, just because like I have this idea, then it means I'll have to do this, and then I'll have to think about this money, and then how am I going to do that? And then it's going to lead to this, and it's like then you just get analysis paralysis instead of just taking one foot forward and just thinking like by the inch it's a cinch. Like you don't realize that all those little steps, even if it's a half step, it adds up. It's cumulative.
I think at the end of the day, people are lazy, they're liars, and they're stupid.
I
And
mean,
well,
there's wisdom in that statement that goes back to, I mean, even some of the ancient philosophers.
well, what I mean by that is when they say, "Oh, it's unfair," what they're lying because it is fair, but they want it to be unfair.
Aha, yeah,
So
they're self inflicting a wound.
yeah, they want it to be unfair to the point where they have it given to them. Like here is a pre-built, company that can generate you 10,000 a month. Here, good luck. Don't burn it down.
Right, yeah, because I mean, if that were the case, oh my gosh, I mean, you have to number one want it. Think about statistics. Like for you and me, you're one of the what top 1% of small businesses in our local state, I believe, or at least top 10% for revenue within the first 3 years. And then you've
Yeah,
got me. I started a
you
company back in 2016, so I've made it past the first 3 years previously, and now I'm in the midst of another company that I'm starting up, and the revenue was something like 70% profit margins. I mean, our bookkeeper was saying that she was like, that's phenomenal, and I think it just has to do a lot with the value that you provide people can lead to higher profit margins. A restaurant and a hotel, a restaurant a hotel and a hotel. Both of these things, if you go to one hotel and it's fantastic, it's amazing, four diamond service, everything's, I mean, down to the mint on the pillow. But then you go down the street to another hotel and it's an eighth of the cost. There's no continental breakfast, and you're not sure what is under the bed, if you know what I mean. And I'm not talking about monsters.
Well,
What I'm saying is it's how you present yourself also as a business owner. And if you just go in expecting things like you said, it's so hard, it's so hard. Well, if someone's just going to give you a $10,000 a month company, you know,
it doesn't mean anything to you.
yes, if you don't want it, it's not, if it's already not fair, it's not going to be fair when it's given to you and you don't succeed. You're just going to find another excuse. So back to
Well,
what you're saying about how people are liars. It's like, are they lying to themselves?
they're lying to you. They're lying to the world around them, and it's they're they're not being honest with it. They're lying to everybody, their self, the people around them, the world, everything. And deep down, it comes from a place of fear because I can't do that. Like how would I pay my bills? How would I start to build that?
Yes, yes.
Well, it comes from, and then it falls into laziness because it's a simple answer. You start building it by doing both at the same time. Oh,
Yes.
well, what do you mean by that? I've got a family. I've got to sleep.
We got to, I mean, the great Dave Ramsey says it, as much as I poo poo on the guy these days, he's a fundamental cornerstone of a lot of the philosophy of the reasons I live my life. But it's just, you got to live like no one else so you can live like no one else. I mean, 10 years, 20 years ago when I was listening to that stuff coming up in my dad's gear shift, red station wagon that we got for like $1,500 at the time, yada, yada, yada. But, it's you got to live like no one else so that you can live like no one else, and then you got to make those sacrifices. After the kids go to bed, you got to go deliver pizzas, and that translates today. And after the kids go to bed, you got to get on, you got to do something. You got to open up a Shopify store. You got to go to garage, you got to go and buy stuff from Goodwill and upsell it on eBay or wherever. I mean, it's all about, if you're in that position, like you said, it's laziness. You either do it or you don't. I mean, all of us could benefit from an extra, doing like what, 1 hour of work extra a night on a side hustle, and probably easily generate an additional $200 to $500 a week, maybe a month if it's something that's got a low profit margin. That alone, if you just reinvested that into your retirement account, would make you a millionaire by the time you retire, just by an extra hour of work every night on something on the side. But we don't want to do it. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. I love watching Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max. I mean, I love catching up on all my shows. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not to say you got to work and hustle, but if you're in that position, you got to realize that that's the kind of mindset that it's going to take to get there. Because if you're not maximizing every single minute of the hours that you are working, then how are you going to be able to rest and actually turn off your brain in the hours when you need to rest and turn off your brain so you can be better the next day?
Well, the thing is, you don't need to turn off your brain. You know, we hear growing up, you have to sleep 8 hours. You have to get all this time. You have to have a work life balance. Like, I was talking with a client the other day, and it was like an aha moment for me. We put ourselves in boxes just to escape the box, just to put ourselves back in the same box. And really, even if you're an entrepreneur, we have tendencies to find the most comfortable spot
Yeah.
and try to cushion it. Make it even more cushy. Make it even more comfortable. Like, I'm doing that with my company right now. Like I could be out doing another job. I have an employee doing a job for me right now. I'm making money right now while I could be out there, going to go do another job.
You could be double
And
booking it essentially.
yeah, I could be running two schedules right now, and I don't think that makes me a hypocrite. What I'm trying to
No,
do right now
no, because
is
your mental capital.
expand. I'm trying to pull myself out of the box I put myself back in. So when I was a W-2 employee, I didn't have any extra time. It was constantly, I was being told if you do not work overtime, then, you're going to be in trouble. And I basically told them to go piss up a rope
Yep.
and climb it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
baby.
that's what I mean by escaping the box is you escape the box by doing something different. So that means changing your routine, adding things to your routine, expanding your horizons. For me personally,
Yeah.
it was starting my company, doing the exact same thing I was doing during the day, but after I left the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So just like, yeah, just it's just like that, man. Like, so back when I was getting my investment licenses, the Series 66 is this ethical, like double speak nightmare of an exam from hell, and it goes all the way up to like F, and it's like both A and C but not D, and it's got all of these crazy ones, both E and G but not F and A, and it's very interpretive, and it was, so I failed it twice, and it's a difficult exam to pass. So I had to go and at 20, 24, 25 years old, I'm working in a restaurant and going to classes for the Series 66 so I can pass it, so that I can make my dream come true, which is to be an investment advisor, a financial advisor. Fast forward to years later, being an investment advisor, I'm in the trends, I'm seeing things, and I know that something's coming. Well, naturally, as somebody who weighs risk on a global and geopolitical scale, I went down a route of, I guess, what's called flight to quality. It's a term that I learned in college where when things like 2008 happen, investors, there's a mass flight to quality. So things like gold, government bonds, yada, yada, yada. Well, think of it career wise. I mean, if you've not been following the Grammys or who's winning what MTV award, and you know who Mike Rowe is, um, basically career flight to quality, and those people who are the infrastructure. And then by doing this whole career change, anticipating some big fallout that was going to happen around 2020, I felt it coming. I didn't know it was going to be what it ended up being, but it was still a feeling that I had based on being in that arena for 10 years at that point already. Had I not chosen to put my nose to the grindstone and learn a trade, not only would I not have the confidence to embrace the worst case scenario, but I've also opened my eyes to a whole new realm of investment strategies revolving around infrastructure stocks, utilities, commodities. I mean, there's this great book I just picked up. I can't believe at a used bookstore. I just was like half texting, half paying attention, and I stopped, and then I turned. I was in the business section, and it was called "My Electrician Drives a Porsche," and he talks about, from an electrician's point of view, commodities and demand. And one thing that we use pretty much every day for wiring things up has to be extracted and then utilized, can be recycled as well. And just looking at population demographics, population growth projections, and advances in technology, and how it's just, you have to, you can't just worry about what Facebook and Twitter and Elon and PayPal. There's these companies. They're the president. I like, this is going to get a little off topic in the sense of, like, the president. He's just a figurehead, right? Like, he's just the face of the nation. He's the scapegoat for a lot of things. But there's like there's like that with companies. There's these flashy companies that you use in your everyday life. Target, Bud Light, Apple, Sony. I mean, I'm just looking around. Like, you can look around in your house right now, wherever you're at. GE, these are like face companies. The companies that are actually worth investing in are the ones that are like, that make this work. Not the company that made this, but what are the companies that went into making this? Where are they? What are they doing? What else are they doing? And so now you have the face company that's entirely relying on that company. It's like its whole success is almost entirely based off of, like, mining and just stuff that people don't always think about. And so that hard work, and then starting my own company, you have to do that extra amount of work every day, no matter how tired you are. If you want it, you'll do it. And it, like, how many times have you worked more than 15 hours a day for your personal company? Would you have ever done that for somebody else?
Well, before I left the box, yes, and that's kind of the ironic thing, you know.
Yeah, that right there. Oh my god, dude. Bam.
Well, it's ironic because I would have, and they would not give me the ability to. It was a little greed. You know, I want to make more money. I don't care how. I don't care how long I need to work. I want to make more, and you're capping me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're basically saying that no, we have all this work that needs to be done, but I don't want you to work more. You know, and that was one of the motivations that pushed me to start my company. It's I have to make more money. I've got these bills don't that they never end. There's always something that comes up, and I'm tired of playing catch up.
And now you're like that rap song. Put the bills behind me because there's too much money in front of me. That's Young Jeezy, by the way. But that mindset, that rap mentality, I mean, just for hype, just like to get your fire going. But yeah, like that mindset, when you realize that it's like there's too much money to go and get made. I don't. It's not that I don't have time for bills or can't pay them. It's like there's just so much stuff I got to go grab and put into place, and like you like to say, bring order to chaos. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and a lot of things that I've been seeing. And there is a reel that I want to talk about too. But you sounds like you want to hop in with something real quick.
So it's something that I've been thinking about, and it's the way momentum works. It's really hard to get an object in motion, but once it is in motion, it's hard to stop it. To slow it
Yes.
down, to bring it to rest. It takes energy to slow it down.
I mean,
And
isn't this like one of the many laws of thermodynamics almost? Like once an object is in motion, it will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force.
well, it applies for the human psyche too. Once you get rolling, like I know you'd already started a company. Before we met, you were already an owner. You already had that thing going, and it was when I say we put ourselves in a box, it's we're comfortable in the box.
Right.
So you had your company right here. You were doing the electrical also, so you were in two boxes.
Yep.
And when I invited you to come out and help me on that house that one day, I think that kind of opened the door, and you said, "Oh shit, I'm in a box. Let me just step out of the box."
Yep.
And it's a wonderful thing to watch that.
It
But
is. And also, how much of a leap. Like, remember the amount of knowledge that I had gained over 0 to 2 years versus the first 2 months. It's like I jumped into the deep end.
exactly. And, like where I'm at now with product creation and negotiations and everything like that, it puts a fire in your belly because you see, so in your mind, you're creating chaos. And what I mean by that is as soon as you come up with an idea, there's chaos there because there's no order to it.
Yep.
And where there's chaos, there's cash. So what that means is,
Yep.
okay, I have this idea. How do I make it a reality? So it's chaotic in the sense that there's no order. It's not real. I don't have any lifeline to draw on. I have to design it. I've got to find a manufacturer. I've got to, find packaging. I've got to find distributors. Shipments,
Sales
everything like
team.
that.
Yes. Like, yeah. And then you start thinking about like, how am I going to build this out? Who am I going to hire? How much is it going to cost? Yada, yada, yada. And it's like that like cartoon of just dust and lines and you know, stars and all of that from the cartoons when you're just like, what is going on up there? But yeah, you have to capture it one thing at a time, pin it down, you got to wrestle it, and just execute on one idea at a time and grab another one of those things, pin it down, work on it, then move on to the next one. And
But the
sometimes you
most
can't win with certain things, but yeah, never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
but the most important thing is understanding and recognizing what you're doing because if you're just focusing on,
Self-awareness.
well, if you're just focusing on making something and taking it to market, you're not creating a system. You're creating a product.
Mm-hmm.
The goal, if you want to make multiple sources of income, you have to create systems, because if you just got a product and you don't know how you did it, you just kind of bumbled your way into it. If you're not paying attention, if you're not remembering, if you're not analyzing how you got there, you can't teach somebody to do that for you.
And what happens, say, and this isn't for me because I know the answer, but this is for like people watching. What happens if you don't know how to create one of those systems? What do you do?
Well, you got to stop and you got to think. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing when they start out. You just kind of, the biggest thing is that you're aware of yourself. You're self aware of your mistakes and what works and what doesn't work. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So let's not be insane. Let's be super sane. Where we're focusing on all
Repeating the
the things
same
that work
process.
and replicating them over and over and over again.
Yeah, I like that. What did you say? Hyper sane or like super sane?
Super sane.
Super sane. Yeah, I mean, you don't think about it like that because our world is so 7 seconds or less blurbs and whatever can just be in the short-term memory that we don't focus on the things like that have to be repeated. I mean, and people know it's true. I mean, the recipe is there. Go to the gym. How often? It doesn't matter. Just go. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that's the first step of that recipe. That's the first step of that system. Make yourself get to the gym, no excuses. Then you build out a workout plan around it, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with the business. You don't be discouraged by. I mean, I'm not saying that I know how to do this, but like I wouldn't look at Facebook and say, okay, well, you know, I can't do that. I would say, you know what, there's probably a social network out there. It's not going to be Facebook, but it's going to maybe be for like some niche that has to do with whatever. And so, anywho, that's what I was
Well,
thinking about.
what what comes to mind when you talk about things like that is finding these niches, in a visual symbolic way. That's why I say you got to kick down doors and look for some shiny shit.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
what that really means is keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. Don't be insane. Keep looking for different things. And once you see shiny stuff, you go in there and start collecting it, and you keep collecting it until there's no more.
Yeah.
And if it's an endless supply, endlessly collect it. Or even better, you go find somebody and train them to collect it for you, and then you keep kicking down doors and looking for shiny shit.
There's a lot of doors to kick down out there, especially if you're in the right business. So, but yeah, man, no, I was okay. So this other reel that I saw, it was talking about how like if you're a billionaire, something something, it makes you like evil and corrupt because there's no way you could have gotten there without exploiting labor and like exploiting people because you make X amount per hour and they make only like pennies on the dollar per hour based on the value, and it's like, but how do you rationalize that when it's like they've created jobs too? Part of the reason that a billionaire is because he gave somebody a job to make that company better, and then maybe he uses that money to do another company which creates more jobs, and it's like he's creating things like they're not billionaires on paper. They don't actually have that much money. They don't have a Scrooge McDuck vault that they go jump around and dive into gold coins and whatever. It's like, no, they created something from nothing. They brought order to chaos and they built a company around it. And now that company has a value that makes them a billionaire because of all the jobs, all the stuff that they've manufactured or not, or created, all the intellectual capital they've created. It's like, how are you exploiting your employee if your employee just got out of college and they need to get relevant experience, and then they take it in stride and then end up becoming a regional manager for your company, love it so much, have implemented a system, have tripled the sales, and then hired on 2 of their teams of their own, and now I've done more job. And it's like once the numbers start getting just broken down and fractionalized, and you start actually compartmentalizing how value is created, I don't blame a billionaire at all for what he's done. It's like you should aspire to create jobs and bring joy to people and purpose and meaning. Like, especially if it's a need that needs to be filled. Do you fault somebody who's a billionaire because they created some revolutionary healthcare system? I mean, like if they're helping the world, if they're helping connect people through Facebook, if they're helping connect the world through Google, you know,
Well,
I don't
going
know.
back to your point about exploiting, your employees, I've got kind of a different mindset about that. And it's not just because I'm the business owner, that kind of thing. Like, I want my employees to exploit me. You know, work harder, so I'll give you more money.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Be Go get education or talk to me about paying for education and become more valuable. Exploit my greed.
if you can make me more money, I'm going to give you more of that money that you helped me make. And probably
Yeah,
more of it than I would have taken for myself had I created that system, basically.
I would even go as far as to say that employees' laziness, uh, employees exploit their self by their laziness. That they say, "Oh,
Complacency,
they don't
maybe.
afford me. I don't get paid enough. He doesn't pay me more. Like I've given him 5 raises in a year because he's constantly learning, constantly striving. He has goals. He wants to be
Mm-hmm.
somebody. If you got let's say, a restaurant where, you got an 18-year-old that's just doing it because, he needs a job because his parents are,
Gonna
you
kick
know,
him out if he doesn't work because he didn't go
yeah.
to. Yeah,
So, he's his own worst enemy. And then, he has a little snarky remark, I've got to mop these floors and they don't pay me nothing for it. Well, I mean, how hard is it to mop a floor? How hard is it to cut a pizza 3 times?
mm-hmm.
How hard is that? I've done it all. I've learned how to run an entire pizza restaurant in 6 months. Every position. How
Mm-hmm.
hard is that? Like, do you think that you really
Yeah.
deserve that much money?
Well, yeah, and then I mean, I'd say they don't understand the numbers, and I'd say that again. I mean, from a business owner's perspective, it does. You can't just go to every homeless person, but there are people who just they do need something like that. And yeah, if that employee's attitude is, well, I don't get paid enough to do that. Well, guess what? I mean, a lot of people have that same attitude, and so then you'll just be kind of stuck making that wage. But that's why I don't know. I mean, that is a tough thing to say because you do want your employees to like get out there and kill it and bring good ideas, and you got like so much hope. And I think it probably is definitely different once you kind of get out of the restaurant space. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of experience in restaurant, from fine dining to Five Guys, bussing tables at 16 years old in a pizza, slipping and falling, at the dishwashing place in a fucking puddle of bleach, spilling it all over you, like just embarrassing stuff. And yeah, I think that yeah, the attitude in restaurant does get a little different than like the corporate world, but it's also completely the same too in many ways. As far as the attitude goes, I think it's like, well, I've got to, instead of like I've got to do this because my parents want me to, it's like, well, I've got a college degree, therefore I deserve this amount of money because I got a college degree, and that's I mean that's just how the works work. But too many people make decisions and career choices for their entire life based almost solely on how they think the world should work and what their ideals are, and
Or
that's
how they're told it works?
or how they're told it works exactly. And that's not always the best thing, is because if you're making decisions based on how you want the world to work instead of what it is, you're kind of like purposefully doing what some of these people are doing and like saying, well, that's not fair, or I don't get paid enough.
Well, when I was younger, I had a partial scholarship and all of that, and I'll be honest, I was only going to go because that was the next logical step. Who really wants to go to college? The only people that really want to go to college are the dirt poor.
Or people who
They're
know that they're going to be doctors or lawyers and they need to complete the mandatory 4 years, but then they'll probably just go to some artsy fartsy liberal arts college that their parents pay a lot of money for, and just party it away, get a degree in biology, and then go become a doctor
well,
after more
see
years of
that.
study and residency, yada yada yada. That was a little disrespectful. That's not what I meant, but
Well, I would actually argue that they don't want to go to college. They want what college will give them.
yeah,
And
yeah, I bet you a lot of people would rather just start residency and take classes on the side to learn to become a doctor,
and well,
surgeon.
my whole viewpoint, on that was I've always been the type to disagree and just kind of sit there and think about things, and the one thing that you know I've always struggled with is why do I need to go to college? Why do these
Hmm.
people keep telling me that I need to go to college? What is so special about college? And you're going for higher education, and basically, what did the education that they subscribed me to, that they forced me to go through and told me that I won't be able to get a job in society if I don't complete high school and all of this, what has it got me? Oh, well, it's got me a high school diploma, so now I'm free to get any shitty job that I want. So for me, all a college education is it's another piece of paper that says you know something.
Yeah.
And why exactly do you need that? Like, does that really scream meritocracy? Like, yes, you went through
Hmm.
the process of getting it, and you proved that you can be a good robot and regurgitate what you're taught. But is that really merit? Like
Ish. I would
ish.
say high
You've shown
school,
you can do
high school
stuff.
maybe not, but college. After you get past the first 2 years, it gets pretty intense. Once you start getting into your major, but I'd say they test you for the first 2 years, because mainly time management. You'll come out knowing time management a lot more than you'd like to at the end of college. It kind of gives you this natural order of how you do things after 4 years of it, and you can't really ever get away from it. And then just I did enjoy doing, but see, I didn't do like basket weaving or dance therapy. I did finance, and so I did a financial statement analysis. Like I learned how to do a financial statement analysis on the company like so well from Dr. Pashley, who got her doctorate in finance, that I was able to write a small ebook and publish it for $3.99 or $1.99 and sell it on my website. And it's just a very basic rubric, but it's like if you can actually teach it to somebody else or conceptualize it enough to write it down and sell it, I mean, that was I mean, it is that in itself is a good education. And then yeah, like you don't get to take world economics and trade until you pass econ 101 and econ 202, macro and micro, and it's like I think a lot of people, and there were a lot of people who gave up and dropped out in the first year or two, but once you get to like advanced finance, managerial accounting, I mean, managerial accounting was probably the first time I took Adderall, to be quite honest. The second exam was so hard, I grasped none of the concepts, and so I took an Adderall, stayed up, didn't sleep, went laid in my bed for like 30 minutes after I got done studying just to close my eyes, and then pass the exam with a B. But that's just kind of the fun stuff that's like, oh, okay, this is why I came to college. But you have to, like anything else, make it through like the first couple of years, and also pick a major that's worth something. If you're going to go to college to become a social justice warrior or you know therapist, well, I mean, we need therapists now, but you know what I mean. Like if it's not something that people don't want to do or can't do, if it's something that everybody wants to do, it's going to be a little different for you.
Well, personally, my opinion on college is I think they're stealing from you. They have basically capitalized on, you want to know this? Well, you pay us and we can. It's almost like on the job training, but you're not getting paid for it. They took the concept of apprenticeship and
Packaged
put
it,
it. Do I?
packaged the concept of an apprenticeship into a knowledge and sold it as a knowledge, you know,
But how is the
product.
apprenticeship? How is an apprenticeship and university different from each other? One, you get paid to learn. The other, you have to pay them to learn. And who gives you a piece of paper, and who is more qualified when they come to completion? Would you say that the university graduate is more qualified, or would you say that person that's been working with their hands for the last 5 years is more qualified? And
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that in itself kind of speaks to the societal shift that we've seen, especially with the advent of technology and communication that we have with the internet. And I think that almost ideally it was that for college, where like you were merit, like it was merit if you made it into college and got the scholarship and apprenticed with one of the good professors. If you were poor, that was like a big thing. And then of course people always had money, and I think it's changed. I think it has been corrupted, like you said, by kind of more or less the admin state. And I mean, I saw the beginnings of it, when I started college in the financial aid office and everything like that. I mean, they even told me, they're like, well, they even like hid the fact for me that it was like a loan, financial aid. They made it sound like it
it's
wasn't.
pretty money.
They made
Just
it
ask.
sound like it wasn't. Yeah, and it was very irresponsible to me. But again, you're 18. What do you know? So,
Yeah,
so
I mean, you're old enough to sign yourself into complete debt, and basically servitude with no guarantee that there's going to be work. Financial servitude with no guarantee that there's going to be work, and then they just turn you loose and say figure it out, and you can study anything you want to be, you can be anything you want to be. To a degree, yes.
yeah,
Like if you have enough ambition, but some things, some people are not going to be nuclear engineers.
yes, and
It's
I
just,
I think it's a moral and ethical failure of the university system to promote that over people getting a degree in business, people getting a degree in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, architectural engineering, civil engineering, instead of promoting that as the reason you go to college so that you can work on civil engineering and do case studies or architecture, to learn how some of the great architects of the past have done their buildings and why a building stands. I mean, I think that there's value in something like that, but whereas there's no value in pursuing a degree in philosophy, like not necessarily psychology, that's medical. I keep mixing those two up, but English, writing, and things like that, while they're important, I think that you need to be somebody who's gonna provide value, I guess, to the library of humanity. And that's why I have a lot of respect for people who end up getting their work published regardless, because they believe in their message so much. And I think that just promoting any little thing because it makes money, a degree in certain kind of arts and things like that. I mean, why I think the failure from the universities morally and ethically comes from the fact that they're not like doing they're not letting students be realistic and saying like, listen, like we're happy to let you come here for audio engineering and to work on your creativeness and to try to become a hip hop artist or something. But like, just know that's, I think they just needed to be a little bit more open instead of like, oh yes, like no, you can be an influencer and you can be a newscaster and you can be an actor and here's acting classes and $40,000 of debt now, and it's like some of these things are so superfluous, and they're not they're not honoring the educational history that these higher universities had to begin with. They were prestigious, they were hard to get into, and now they're not. Now
Well,
they're
the thing
just
is,
whoever wants to pay the most money can go there.
well, it's turned into a laziness on the university's parts too, because used to be there was a master, a journeyman, and an apprentice. So what the master did, the master had the actual system. So what they would do is the master would be here, and he would take that journeyman, and he would send him. That's where the term journeyman comes from, because they would journey to the job. Now the master had already taught the journeyman, so that's how that kind of. So the apprentice would learn from either the journeyman or the master to the point where he was at a point where he could be a journeyman and could go on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what these universities have done, if they've gotten lazy to the point where instead of getting paid, by the master, so you would call them, getting paid by where they're sending, the journeyman.
Mm.
What they've started doing is saying, "Hey, I'm not going to work with these people. You just come to me and I'll teach you what I know and you figure it out." So they've become lazy. People could still go to universities and still get hands-on experience and still do all the things that they could do if these universities weren't so greedy and so lazy. Let's say, so hey CJ, well, how if there was no universities, how would I get training for something, like IT? Well, are there not IT companies out there? Are they not already looking for workers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would that entail? Then how would that work?
I mean,
Well, the
yeah, we
university.
already know that it costs a lot to hire on new people, but it's a lot easier to retain and retrain. It's much cheaper. And so why not hire a college graduate who wants to get into IT, say, listen, you can do your apprenticeship here with this company. We'll treat you well, we'll pay you well, and we want to encourage your learning. And like hopefully that apprentice says, what, I will stay with this company because I've been treated well here. I mean, that's almost ideally how it should work. I just feel like you said, there's some corruption somewhere along the way, and I think it has to do with money and loans and that sort of thing. But yeah, like what you're proposing makes a whole fuck ton more sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, and for the people out there that might think, well, that sounds a little extreme. Like how could I become a doctor? Like working like that. Well, that's how it was before. The
Do you
doctors they
do you
would
really
go.
think, like, yeah, like during times of war, that they really said, like, okay, like Harvard educated first? They're like, no, whoever wants to hop on this plane and fly over there and help heal people, 6 months of experience, 2 years of experience, or 20 years of experience. I think it's like if you have the heart to do it, you'll get it done. All these people go to college and they're undecided and they can't pick a major for 2 years, so they take general humanities classes. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, instead of doing the right thing and turning these students away to a trade school, they're saying, no, come on in, give us your money, and then we'll let you just pitter putter around for a couple of years, play video games, get high, get drunk, and then once you decide what you want to do. And a lot of times, even then, they're like, I don't know. I mean, how can you know by the time you're 20, from 18 to 20, like what you're going to do? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I think that there's definitely better ways to do things, and it's almost they've almost got it set up, as like a socialist kind of system where there's an well, I have to go to college. Everybody goes to college. Like, why can't I go to college?
Yeah,
Well, you're going to college because you think you're supposed to go to college. You're
because you've
not
been
going
told,
there.
right? Get good
You're being
grades.
told.
Get good grades so
This
you
is
can go
just
to a
what
good high
happened.
school, so that you can get in a good college, so that you can get a good career.
But what happens when capitalism takes over, and like somebody like me is like I need a new apprentice. I can't find a good one, but there's this college down here that I pay them what I would pay a journeyman or what I would normally pay an apprentice, and instead that college sends them to me to learn And if they don't work out right, I'll send them back. If I like them a lot after they become a journeyman, I've got their contact information. I can hire them. And the entire time the college is making the money. But I mean, and honestly, like how much would you pay in a year to go to a university? Let's say, one of your semesters, how much would you have paid to go to, you don't have to exactly say how much, but like what was common per
Me, well,
semester?
I mean, I'm still 15K in the hole for my college. It was up to about
Let's say a
30,
semester.
32 for 4 years. So I mean, it's like around, it was around 8K a semester, six to
Okay.
eight.
So let's say, let's do the math real quick. So you're making,
And that
so the
was
college
that was in
would make,
2008, by the way.
yeah. So the people, so when people are going to college, they're having to work a job or two, while they're doing it just to live anyway.
Yeah,
So let's say somebody like me pays 15 an hour starting out for a first period apprentice.
yeah, 15.
So times 40 hours, that would be $600 a week times 52. That would be $31,200 in a year. So divide that in half. So for a semester, instead of that 8,000, you can give that $8,000 to the college,
And you
which
still
is
come out with like 23 grand in your pocket.
so the college would get that whatever it was. You would take this home for half a year or 7,600. So you would have money to run on. You would have money to eat
For
on.
four
You
months.
would,
So that's how you'd have to think of it. You get $7,600 for 4 months. Can you live off that for 4 months? Yeah, I think a lot of college students could. In fact, if you don't have that struggle, then you won't learn to budget. You got to go to college to have a safe space to learn some of these hard facts of life. It's just other people use college as a safe space to go complain about their feelings. But me, I use college as a way to figure out, okay, if I have to like what happens if I bike to college every single day? How much money do I save on gas? I mean, is it worth it to have a career where do I live closer in the city? Whatever, you know what I mean? Like you explore all these little intricate differences. So yeah, if I let me say this, I would have been happy to pay 3 times what I paid to go to college if I had known that throughout my entire 4 years I was going to be working with a financial advisor all 4 years.
yeah. I mean, you're with them. You're shadowing them. You're watching them close deals. You're watching
Yeah,
them explain. And by the end of it, I like
you're
to say
natural.
that. Yeah, I like to say that teaching is learning twice. What I mean by that is for you to be able to teach somebody, you have to have enough of an understanding to articulate it
So
for a
someone,
person with no understanding to know what the hell you're talking about.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's
you
tough to
know,
do.
yeah, by
You
the
can,
end,
yeah.
so by the end of, your apprenticeship or your shadowing or your residency or whatever you want to call it, you will have an on the job, hands on, straight from the horse's mouth understanding of the trade that you're trying to take on. But the
Yeah,
beautiful thing is with something like that is you'll know from the beginning if it's something that you want to do or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, because you'll immediately be in there. You'll immediately be swinging with the punches. You'll have to keep up. And if it's like, okay, this isn't for me, I think that's fine. But at least you don't waste 4 years of your life and then get into it and then be like, oh my god, this is nothing like I learned. I hate this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very insightful for sure. So that's all about college. I don't know. I kind of need to pee. I hope Grant could like edit it out. And I'll just like go pee and I'll be
It
right
will.
back.
It will.
All right. Pause. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right.
So,
Yeah. So, what are some other hot button topics right now? What are some other insightful pieces of advice that you have for any young and aspiring entrepreneurs who maybe aren't sure about going to college or how to start their own business and I don't know, or insights on life and how to handle difficult situations? I don't know. The floor is yours. What's the next topic?
well, as far as, like business and, really making it out there in the world, you have to identify a skill set that can be monetized.
Yep.
And, it's a couple different factors. Like there's going to be some things that you're not good at, and somebody that's made different can do better. There's always going to be somebody that's better. With that in mind, you have to, it's most entrepreneurs start off cutting grass or, breaking leaves or cleaning out gutters or
Pressure washing,
pressure
car
wash.
detailing.
You just have to keep trying.
Yeah.
I mean, take Edison for example. Like he's not exactly what history paints him as. Is a very dark personality, but in the
The
root,
elephants aren't a big fan.
yeah, yeah. But at the root of you know Edison, he was persistent. He did not give up, and the whole story of him trying 1,000 times to invent a light bulb, it could be complete bullcrap. We'll never know. But the moral is still the same. You cannot give up. So just keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, and you will
Yeah.
eventually find something that you make money off of. And
Yep.
you might not make a lot of money off of it, and you might decide this isn't worth my time. Like it takes me back to
Well, yeah, like, and that goes back to self awareness, like you were talking about earlier. If you wanted to go be a professional NBA superstar, you can do it. I think so, but I think you'd have to be really honest with yourself about some of the like natural talents that they might have versus what you have, and that you'll just have to work that much harder. So I'm not saying don't go play video games for a living because I would love to have done that, but there just came a time in my life where I had to admit that I don't derive as much pleasure as I thought from these things. And plus, I feel much better when I'm active and I have an active job like waiting tables or being a bellhop at a hotel or working in the trades. And so, as long as you're realistic about your capabilities and your limitations, whether physical or mental, I
give me
always, huh?
give me one.
Sure.
All right, some scheduling.
So for yeah, basically, as long as you're honest with yourself about your limitations, whether they're physical limitations or mental limitations, I think that it's not about happiness. You might want to do something so bad and chase after it, but have you thought about worst case scenario too? I mean, I think for me, probably like worst case scenario would be if I was blind, but like if I ever had to be handicapped in a wheelchair, I wouldn't mind being a proofreader and help making sure that subtitles were accurate and up to date. There'd have to be some kind of thing that I could derive, reading and writing or being a thought leader or things like that. But in the meantime, I'm happy with physical jobs, physical activity, helping progress society in that regard. But if you're willing to indomitably pursue your goals tenaciously, then nothing can stop you. Even, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So that kind of takes my mind back to something I was thinking about the other day, and it's what wrestling taught me. When I was in high school, and it's as far as, you got to pay attention to the cards that you're dealt. You know, it's a very simple logic. It's push when it's easy to push and pull when it's easy to pull. That's the main thing that wrestling taught me. And if you've got to push so hard
Yeah.
that, it takes everything you've got to just move a little bit, maybe you should pull instead. And what I mean by that is, like, you made the reference to an NBA, basketball player. Like, I could grab rim in high school. I could jump up. I could dunk a little one of the little squeezy balls. I could do that.
Yep.
But it was right there at the end of my capabilities, where we had this 7 foot tall guy in high school, and it was nothing for him to just whatever. Whatever he had, basketball, it doesn't matter. It was just a light little hop, and it was nothing.
And yep.
That's a classic pulling when it's easy to pull, instead of pushing. And you can apply that to life. And
yes.
There is another conversation there where when you start to interact with the masters and the others in life, where you're competing. Just because it's easy to pull doesn't mean you should pull.
Just because everyone else is pulling or pushing doesn't mean you should do that either.
Well, sometimes it's a trap.
Sometimes it's a trap. Ugh. Yep. Like, but what?
That's the more complicated side of life. But on a very, very basic level, push when it's easy to push, pull when it's easy to pull.
Yeah, it does get a little bit more complicated. I can see that. Especially if everybody else is pushing and you're trying to pull. Yeah. Oh no, that's idealistic, man. We could talk about, if everyone's running off the side of a cliff. But I think I think the message is getting out there. I'm seeing more and more reels and such, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, just about some of the stuff going on, and it's I don't know. There's just like too much information. It's kind of just wondering who to trust.
Well, it is. There's so much information out there that that's. I personally believe that's why we're so polarized. Is because
the algorithms, yeah.
Out there, no matter what side you are, you can find information that confirms your bias.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, yeah, and the algorithm plays right to it, man.
It almost seems like it's by design.
Yes, it seems, or been proven in congressional hearings. I don't know. You know what I mean? So there was that Facebook whistleblower. Remember him, the guy with pink hair?
I'll take your word for it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he blew the whistle on Facebook and all that crap. I mean, it was like right up there around like the Panama Papers scandal.
Wow.
If you remember, I mean, yeah, the Panama Papers. Talk about something that would be really interesting to see, is that like little scratch of corruption that they found in the U.S. around Delaware, and something similar going on there, and how it's still untouchable. So,
I just had a really interesting. Sorry, my damn dog's toy, but I just had a really interesting thought. What are your thoughts about the Great Turnings?
The Great Turnings?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard of this.
Okay. So
tell me.
It's basically the thought process behind the turnings is, there's archetypes for every generation. Like, we're the millennial generation. Like, you wouldn't think it right now, but we are the same archetype as the greatest generation. And it's kind of funny because people actually refer to the greatest generation the same way that they do millennials. Well, they've been baby, and there's nothing to them, and they don't have any fire. They're not gonna survive in the real world. What did they do? They went out and they conquered just about the entire world, and then built an entire 100-year dynasty on it.
Yes, I mean, okay, so what are my thoughts on it?
Well, it's a lot more in depth, and the
Sure,
turning point is
sure. Now,
a separate section. But
the
go ahead.
turning point I would say would be the greatest generational wealth transfer in history, and that as that is happening. Now, my thoughts on it in the last couple of days, dude, I am pumped. I'm pumped to be positioned where I'm at. I'm pumped for you and me when I think about it. I'm pumped for anybody who's ready to be a leader. I'm pumped for the ability and the opportunity to rebuild this nation from the inside out. I think that the old America is dead, and I think that, like you said, if we truly indeed echo the great generation, which I don't oppose. I think that we as millennials have been, like you said, told our entire lives that we're lazy, that we're always looking at our phones, and that we amount to nothing. But the whole time we've been doing this, we've had our phone in front of us. You're conducting business. I mean, they just wanted to hate on the fact that this was a tool as much as possible. And now, like, I've met people who have helped me build my business by playing a PlayStation game online, who have digital companies that have helped me increase my brand. I mean, that's the world that we live in. It is 2023, and like, if people aren't ready to just like, people don't like change, and I think unfortunately that health trends and economic trends and global trends, capitalist trends, have really turned in favor of us. We've been fighting for it, and we are tired of being told we're lazy and not going to accomplish anything, when a lot of us are out here laying bricks for the future, and actively fighting a future that we think is not good for us or our children. And all I got to say is, like, just a recent quote that I heard from one of the songs. It's like, it's only treason if you lose, but I don't think we're going to lose this one because of the fight that we have, in the intelligence that we have, as opposed, not intelligence like we're smarter or more adaptable or animal intelligence, but more just like
Information.
information. Yes. And so I don't think that our taking over is going to be it's gonna cause a lot of rifts, but I think that a lot of people are going to be for it that aren't from our generation. But we
Well,
are
no,
entering
well,
that
like what
age.
we're planning, like the business models that we're setting up and everything, like we're already working on invading industries. Whether it's, the electrical industry, like how things are always done, with, the generator, that, I've got in the back of my mind still, it's the power companies, it's from every sphere of life. The millennial generation is about to invade and conquer, and rightfully
Mm-hmm.
so. You know, they deserve that it happens to them,
I would
you
love
know.
to see, definitely, like, an explosion of supporting like small content creators, local businesses, things like that, instead of just turning to some grand big digital agency, or like specialists, like with what we do. You know, I
Well,
mean, I love being able to, just one last thought. I love having a small list of clients that I can serve really well, and that compensate me really well for above and beyond service, instead of having to just, you know, be a part of some big corporation that's let me has my own clients, and then like throws in a bunch of orphan clients who don't know me and I don't have a personal relationship with, whether that be in the electrical business or my personal financial business.
yeah. What you were saying earlier, about, they're always talking about us being on our phones and, all of that. And it is kind of ironic that, you know, like here lately, I'm making deals. I'm, negotiating. I'm creating. I'm communicating with people that can do things that I can't without even saying a word.
Right.
While I'm doing, the job that I'm already doing. And it's
I'm a content creator now because I can make a video and just upload it, and it doesn't have to be Like it did, like when I did stuff like that years and years ago, it was very complicated, and now it's so easy.
Exactly. I mean, we're creating content right now. And I mean,
Yes, we
what
are.
am I doing? I'm just running my mouth.
But we have intellectual content that needs to be shared, and I think that our ideas have merit, and I think that we are thought leaders, and I just think that we need to at least have it stored, whether we're whether we make it big or not. I just feel like the plans to and the foundation has been set, and it's just a matter of, do we have the work ethic to make it happen, or are we all talk? So,
So,
but I think a lot of people have to ask themselves that, are you a doer or a talker?
well, I
And
want to kind of take you back to where we were going, with the
mm-hmm.
turnings and everything.
Yeah, this
So,
is good.
there's another portion of the turning. What a turning is, and it is an event. And each of the four turnings, they each correlate to a different type of event. And the fourth turnings are cataclysmic, in nature, like the last World War, the
Yep.
climax of it, and so basically for America, the last couple turnings was World War II ending, Civil War, Revolutionary War, and they're all in about an 80 to 100 year cycle. And we are right slap dab in the middle of a fourth turning. And then you have things coming up like BRICS and NATO, stuff like that. And the people that were in World War II did not exactly know they were in World War II. In World War II, when the Allied powers won, they created 100-year dynasty for the liberal world order, the liberal democracy. It basically took control with the dollar and everything like that. And now, right on time, we're looking at another fourth turning. I mean, look at everything going on right now. So
You're talking about the country with the big C and their population growth and modernization rates,
I'm
and
talking about worldwide.
yeah,
I'm going to give you a chance to elaborate here in a second. But what I want to really emphasize right now is, is based on population growth and population age. So a bunch of different countries are in their own cycles right now. And what I want you to think about is it's almost like all of these different countries are all kind of, it's almost like the planets lining up, but everybody's hitting their fourth turnings all at the same time. Give me 1 second before you start.
yeah, no worries.
So,
Good old Cav.
so with that in mind, where all of these other countries are all hitting their fourth turnings all at the same time, it's almost like we're hitting a global fourth turning. So, with all that being said, what do you think about NATO and BRICS and possibly new sides for World War III?
Yeah, I'd say that a majority of my understanding of what you're talking about comes from this book right here by Bridgewater, um, owner, creator. Bridgewater Associates is one of the largest hedge funds. Ray Dalio wrote this book, and this is one of his recent ones about principles for the changing world order, where he details how he believes that it's China. Essentially, he gives examples about how the Dutch went through this process, Rome went through this process, and like there are other countries that we've seen go through it as well. And so yeah, and so I think that not that I think, I mean, I just know that based on my involvement in this landscape from the age of 21 to 22, being made aware of it, through college, but then keeping up with it around 2016, 2014, 2015, 2016. And China is, it's so weird to say it, but they call it a meteoric rise. but being aware of it back then and everyone kind of poo-pooing it versus seeing it now and how it's almost undeniable that they are modernizing at an incredibly fast rate. And so that means raw materials, construction, and all of that. I mean, just what he talks about is happening based on his travels to China and investing in China, to what I'm seeing now, to the shit that's happening with Russia, to the things on this global stage. I'm frankly I'm worried, of course, because the plan has always been stated that America will no longer be number one in this new position, and it just seems like no matter what over the last, I don't know, I can't really put a number on the last amount of years I've been aware of it, but it just seems like it's always been seeming like an outside force is constantly trying to push America's nose into second place. And I mean, obviously, we know who that is in some respects, but it's also taken a foothold, and the well has been poisoned essentially. Because Americans are turning against Americans, which is by design. And the the fact that China's modernizing at such a rapid rate, and they're bringing their middle class is growing. It's insane, but that's going to bring to the global scale certain jobs as well. Think about all of these agrarian people who, I mean, more than over half of China's population is agrarian, I believe. I mean, it's insane. And just like a decade ago, it was still like 70% agrarian. And so they're fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth and 12th and 15th and 19th largest cities are literally tripling because of how much construction and stuff is going on. Now, I mean, tell me that that's not going to have some major impact on the global economy, and especially coming from a country that's openly in favor of communism and socialism in the sense, and how their dictatorship, as it were, of cameras everywhere and all of that. I mean, it's scary that they might be the number one power, or India, or Russia, or Russia. I don't know. I just feel like that no matter what, China is not the ally that we need, and I don't trust any political party or anybody who's up in the know with our country's future.
Well, you look at what China did. They pivoted from communism to like a hybrid communist capitalist kind of uh, I don't even know what you call it, but it's like a fox capitalism kind of
Oh,
conglomerate. I don't even know how else to describe it,
it's a,
but
well, fortunately slash unfortunately, it's almost a corporatocracy.
well, I
And
think that
do you,
there is a concerted effort to
yes,
topple the way things are now
well, follow
from.
the people from the big tech firms from Silicon Valley, Twitter, Facebook. These people, they are taking expat jobs in Hong Kong and helping code for the Chinese government, their own social network controlled by the Chinese government, their own form of PayPal controlled by the Chinese government. All these coders, I mean, it's not like, when it comes to money and corporations, you don't have allegiance to a nation, do you? I mean, especially if you're some person who's from Silicon Valley and doesn't have any feeling, you know what I mean? And the world is so global that it's almost like, how can you have any of that on such a global scale? But like, I don't know how many of these people stop to think like, I'm helping the government, this Chinese government, do this and oppress its people. You know,
Well, we're really dropping the ball as far as we're not being we're not inching the line forward on anything. All we're doing is, hey, you better stop doing that. We're not, we don't have our own agenda that we're going after. We're capitalism. And, it's all happening beside, behind the scenes, across the entire world. It's this corporate, administrative state is linking together with all of the other ones. And they're all getting to the point where, they're working together, and they have even infiltrated the government.
Yeah, well,
All the
yes.
governments, they've taken it over, and now
It's a
there is
revolving
a
door
merger.
between governments and corporate. Yep.
There's a corporate and government merger happening that neither could do on their own. You know,
Corporatocracy.
it,
Yeah.
it's almost like we're about to see uh, an out in the open shift.
Yeah.
Where there was democracies or communism states
Well, I
and
mean,
stuff
we're
like that.
essentially the United States of McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and sports, and NFL, right? I mean, and Hollywood, and that's our export. You
So,
know,
so what do we do? What do we do about these people? Because I know.
you keep telling people to vote with their dollar. You say, as I don't know, it might be cheaper at Walmart, but you need to pay the $20 for that T-shirt at your local craft store. For the 100% American made T-shirt. I guess you have to be a conscious consumer, and the only way to do that, the only way to combat it, is by information and just
Well,
being positive and sending out the message as best you can.
well, the thing is, like for that small mom and pop store, are they making that T-shirt themselves? I mean, where are they getting their products from? You know, they
Yeah,
can't.
you're right.
You know, where are they ordering their stuff from? It's on a fundamental level that things are happening. Like just product creation, stuff like that. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're not gonna go spend $1.80 or $1.90 when you can get that same product for 12 cents somewhere else.
And yeah,
Like,
exactly. And that just ties into the intelligence of being an entrepreneur and adaptable, that you're going to have to find those deals. You can't always just take the first thing that comes along. You do have to be scrupulous.
well, the reason I say that is because, yeah, don't go to Target, don't go to Walmart, don't go to these giant conglomerates, because they're buying their stuff from China. But where is mom and pop? Where are they buying their t-shirts from?
Yeah.
The same place. And it's a matter of manufacturing. We need the means of manufacturing. But it's not just, having them in our country. When I say we, I mean the people. It's not these corporations that are
Yeah.
also running everything in China or India or wherever. That they have captured, our ability to be independent.
They have in a lot of ways, and you can look at a lot of big agriculture to some of that, and that loss of freedom, especially with the company formerly known as Monsanto merging to protect you know, their brand and everything like that after that big fallout. But I mean, stuff has been linked back to them as far as corporate espionage and warfare go. I mean, there's reason that this stuff is case studies in that you can read about, is because, and like, why there are no monopolies and certain laws in place is because, I mean, like, people are still people, and dirty tactics are dirty tactics. And so if you can remove from the population and the general populace the ability to control their own food supply, then thusly they become independent on a system. And then in order to keep that system in place, it's like, well, you had to collaborate, right? Like you were saying, somebody in the beginning to implement that system, and thus then you have to decide to try to find a way to make people dependent on it. And so that's where we come in, and why we always need to continue to fight for the system, but to make it better, right? We've got to fight for a new version of it, an upgraded and progressive, futuristic version that doesn't have anything to do with the political progressive, but just like, it's just, we are progressing as a society forward technologically and
Well,
culturally.
it goes back to, one of my life philosophies is, again, push when it's easy to push, pull when it's easy to pull. What happened with China is, an argument can be made about who got who. But, at the very end right here, China's the one with all the manufacturing.
China's the one that owns a lot of the U.S. debt.
Yep. In the beginning, we were like, hey, if we send our machines and everything over there, it can, we can get all this stuff made for super cheap. All we got to do is partner with them. So in a sense, China was looking at that, pull when it's easy to pull. Oh yeah, we got slave labor. Yeah, bring your machines over here. We'll do it real cheap. But now the machines are over there, and they're not giving them back. So, like I said, when you're dealing with, a master, sometimes you have to push when it's hard to push, because otherwise it's not going to happen for you. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to work with them, a little bit to get the money rolled in so we can actually buy the machines and bring them back. So, it's the opposite for us. We're going to have to work harder to get back what we need.
We will, because we're not building from scratch. We're repairing an already terribly broken system. Well, we're already working within.
We're also up against an enemy that knows that we're weak. We're weak right now as far as manufacturing, and what does Sun Tzu, say about that? Appear strong when you're weak, and weak when you're strong. But there's no appearing. They have our ticket.
We're not strong right now. We are weak. Well, as a nation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. We got some badasses amongst us, but not many.
Well, that's what we're going to have to depend on. The headstrong, stubborn, American spirit, we're going to have to, revive it.
Yeah.
And, that means using them for everything that we can use them for.
Well, hell, man, I wouldn't necessarily even call it American spirit. I would just call it, the will and duty to society. I mean, if you're alive and you have people who depend on you, whether you like it or not, for a lot of people, I'm trying to frame this for a lot of people, in general cases, it is tough when you're the only person, but the system's made it that way. So don't be the only person. Don't be an individual amongst the flock. Be a family unit. Create a family unit. Create a business unit. Create things where people rely on you, because it's your duty. It's your duty to help people progress in society as well. And that, I think, whether it's Marcus Aurelius talking about his duty to his people or our duty to each other as humans, whether, right, like you said, Sun Tzu, I've been doing this Daily Stoic thing, and it's just last month was all about your duty, not only to yourself, but just because it's the right thing to do. And I think that a lot of people are purposely not doing the right thing because they're either scared of repercussions and blowback because of the cancel culture, or they don't know because the system's so blown out of whack. And that it is up to, like you said, the headstrong and the people who are willing to make the tough calls and who are willing to work 16 hours a day, who are willing to bleed a little bit for their work and don't need to sit in an air-conditioned, comfy office and want to get out there and want to, in a small way, make the world a better place.
Yeah. So, it's, as far as, you were saying, doing your duty and everything like that, it is our duty to take these means from these people because they have proven that they are not trustworthy.
They're not treating us well, and they're not treating your neighbor, the people who you have a duty to. Yes, it's your duty to stand up.
But when something revolutionary really happens, I'm about to go into it, something revolutionary is happening. Sometimes the best way to create change is to show a better way. And yes,
lead
by being a better example. To get the machinery and stuff, and that takes capital. That takes fresh blood and new people with ambition to build and to grow and maybe a different set of morals than we've had in our country. But
Yeah.
right now, our enemy, has the means of manufacturing, and they're enslaving their people to do it for us. I mean, we have artificial intelligence, we've got robotics, we've got everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's people over there that would rather that they built nets around their manufacturing plants because people would rather just kill themselves than keep doing what they're doing.
Working.
Yeah,
And think about that. You have to think about, people don't stop to think about that. I want that to sink in. This is the country that's vying for first place, that will march in here and tell us what to do and put nets around our buildings. So that's what we're fighting for. We're not able to serve our country with guns and boots, but we are able to serve our country with boots and tools on the home front and things like that. You know what I mean? So whether that be providing jobs for our economy or making the world a better place by living by a new set of ethics and morals that are more in alignment with either what this nation was founded on or the Constitution, or just being good people. Yeah, man, it gets me pumped up just to talk about it.
Well, we have a duty, to build this new world. We're coming up on a fourth turning, and things are going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
Things are about to be turned upside down, and the destination is not clear.
It's not. It's not, because I mean, Klaus Schwab is out there doing his thing. Those guys are out there. Bill Gates is out there doing his thing, and he's got the money. All we have is each other.
You go back to World War II. If the Axis powers would have won, what would America be? What would our figureheads have been? Would they have been the most notorious, figures in history, like a Hitler? Would one of our figureheads, or a Winston Churchill, would they be? The way that we view Hitler, would that have been one of the guys on our side if they won? It's true that victors write history. So we're on the verge of becoming the detestable side. Kind of a play on words, but the deplorable side.
Yeah.
So that's really where my
Meanwhile,
mind goes.
China's massacring Uyghur Muslims. I don't know how to say it right now. I mean, like the innocent Muslims, like the Christian Muslims, almost like the good ones, and China's just killing them. The ones that are extremely anti-terrorist, like, and hate all of that stuff going on and just want peace. China's killing the people who want peace, and our nation and our system. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, they're not just killing the Muslims or the Christians; they're killing all religious people. It's an attack on spirituality.
It's a scary world, and that's what we're fighting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we're coming up on an hour and a half.
I think that's where we should call it. It's been a good chat. We got stuff to do. Grant, probably edit this last part out, but yeah, man, that was a good one. That was good. It was just like a nice, solid, consistent flow. I don't think, except for that break that we had to take, that there was any deviation. So, but yeah, this is being recorded. I don't have this live stream, so I can chop it up as well, and I'll get it over to Grant.
Well, what's he doing as far as the last one?
I haven't touched base with him. I'm gonna go ahead and end it. Hold on.